I'm going to read a few poems from my Verve Poetry Press pamphlet, Palimpsest, which was published at the end of January 2020. I had about 15 gigs lined up to read this at various events around the UK, but funnily enough, they're all cancelled. And so I thought I would record a video so that, you know, people who don't get to hear me in real life can enjoy some of the weirdness that is this sequence Palimpsest. They're all made using a technique of collaging kind of found pieces, appropriated pieces from junk mail, ephemera, magazines, layered, redacted, erased, overpainted, and then overtyped with original lines and snippets to create a narrative. And as I was doing this, and I got about sort of 4 or 5 in, this character started to emerge, this sort of anti-hero, assassin, and so she took the name Palimpsest as well. It's kind of near future, it's dystopian, it's kind of apocalyptic, a little bit anyway. I'm surrounded by some props that sort of speak to sort of some things mentioned in the poems, and hopefully some of them will make sense as I go through. I'm just going to read a handful of poems and hope you enjoy them. So this is from Palimpsest, available from Verve Poetry Press. Okay, this is the first poem. Imperfections in wood, natural cracks, rings, even tree bark, carefully rendered into styling elements by a woman who could smell the sea coming, who could predict the precise second that red sand rain would arrive from distant deserts. The New York Times called her the perfect, dreamy iteration of a surprising discovery, but her own research said tricks of the light. Fraudulent presentations may indicate otherwise when the going is soft, good to soft in places, Nantwich, Penzance, Sheffield. Chances are, these days, if you want to find exactly the right thing, your breathless pleas for help will be on tonight's evening news. She got herself a job as a chambermaid, went from room to room, rifling through guests' possessions, trying on their perfumes, stealing their shoes, their luggage, an Aston Martin and a villa on the Riviera. A vast slag heap of junk and ephemera, distorting her sense of self. Palimpsest has an irregular history, hints of a relationship, knows English, Latin, learning Mandarin in New York. Born 14th of May 1984, likes coke, likes money, likes poking around other people's stolen memories. She can perfectly measure elapsed time, it is said. Perfectly measure the descending scale of a life with a simple press of a finger on lips. Flipping telepathic triggers, an assassin of convention. She likes AK-47s, red Gucci boots, short skirts, and adventure. It began around sundown. A couple of city slickers in the desert, stranded, a lonely canyon, fire, herbicides, yellow, skin-burning chemicals. Look, it could happen to anyone, Palimpsest said, and spat to show her disgust. Pigweed, dogbane, sour thistle, stinkgrass, my secret medicine, but it didn't help 'em none. It's experimental evolution. I eke out a living in the harshest regions of the world. Put it this way, they ain't retiring to Florida anytime soon. Palimpsest had a history of addiction to whiskey, prescription drugs and wedding cake. There were false starts, of course. One fiancé took an overdose and another drowned. They say her first husband, a schizophrenic, blew his brains out after they parted. In rapid succession, she married a sailor, an albino piano tuner, and Elvis Presley. Well, he said he was Elvis Presley. I like to shop around for a rare deviation, an uncommon variation on the regular guy. I like a man with no body parts, small enough for me to get my hands around. And I have pretty damn big hands. If you believe the rumours, Palimpsest keeps 1 million dead creatures in the art quarantine facility, which is plausible for sure. Every specimen died in her arms, they say. I feel very vulnerable, the curator likes to whine, and to prove the point he shows a skinned, mummified rabbit half eaten by the dreaded Guernsey carpet beetle. His ubiquitous hard sell is starting to grate. Kill pests are uploaded to museums in the UK, but the digital forensics are ambiguous. Her DNA unmatched. The fingerprints missing from the database. She keeps off the mainframes, deals behind doors, a secretive breeder of ghost cats. Every object that met the eye was unfamiliar but beautiful. Palimpsest hacking something in the bathroom. The floor covered in the spread of half-finished jigsaw. She sat and watched him wolfing. Suddenly, a dark flash swam through his arc of light, larger than any normal fish. The blood flooding across, soaking the house. She went into the black, waded into search, went into the river and bent down to squint for any left behind, bobbing in the water. They were close now. Seriously, did you see the clothes on Celebrity Loverboy Stylist? I had 3 weeks in Havana, disguised as Rita Hayworth. Look, I knew the kids would all be in bikinis, so I tried dressing up. But have you seen the collections? I watch films for inspiration and rob vintage shops, stand in the streets singing all Queen of Tweed and mismatched sneakers to cover the Blackfoot. But it does me no good. Palimpsest was a member of the Big Sur Gun Club. For me, it went beyond the initial intrigue. God knows she had full modelling expectation, and the chestnut hair would not have struck her as a downside. All in all, I'm not displeased, she said. It eliminates doubt. I began to hunt for somebody, and I love him. End of 80% Hollywood. Except it was hard for me to do because I just wanted to lose myself in the bubble world of being Palimpsest. I'm told the woman doesn't fuck around when you're not her cup of tea. Singing because she has that Elvis voice. I'm the one to blame. Do you get it? Billy's lost his mind for sure now that it's over. And the feds, if there's a case, they ain't going to pursue it. You know, I heard she let him choose the island outfits from their Pacific Segway as a keepsake. I suppose that's progress of a kind. He stood 7 nights at the thresh of the village until he had darkened and Palimpsest permitted him in. She stood 6 cockerels at the points of a hexagram, circled him 5 times, calling to the mountain, to the stream. She assured me that this 4th time would be final, tattooed the spell on his torso with a blackened silver blade. She cut 3 feathers from a cormorant's wing, called marrow from its bones, simmered a thin saffron sauce laced with pufferfish blood. She cut a jellyfish in 2, murmured over and over that he was cleansed of the past, but not forgiven. A single red kite stood on the air. A wildcat twitched in the grass. The Revenant's firstborn stood dressed in red, a cracked mask of white mud, charcoal black eyes. Palimpsest dug a shallow grave in the peat, set some turfs burning, added the stones, the cocks, the jellyfish, the cat, the cormorant's wing and the dead man's tongue, and we buried him back in that ground where he belongs. Cutting pacemakers out of corpses, grinding bones by hand, Palimpsest doesn't care to keep her inner existential under wraps. Bodies are museums in themselves, she says. Organ, fat and bone space where we archive, store and hoard. This capsule, she taps her chest, I have inscribed with all the learnings of my mouth. She drinks cerveza negra con colombiana with aguardiente shots, travels the world but holed up in Santa Cruz. She keeps a number of unrecorded vials in a hazard tape cardboard box. With the FBI tight behind her, word began to spread about her cool hobby and her brand of alt repute. I am a verb, she says, for the defiance you should expect from everyone you underestimate, marginalise or disrespect. ship blasts, foghorns, a mess of blue lights. There were people out trying to get a look. I felt very calm, very pure. She was captured by fluke. A rare patrol car taken to the Gestalt HQ in that notorious rue. I don't know how I didn't talk. I just kept saying that I knew nothing, that I had killed to revenge a dead boyfriend. They had decided to shoot her veins out, to pack her with an anthology of drugs, to choke her with sensory destruction. No right-minded person is going to come back from a gig like that, but Palimpsest is, of course, an island bordered by the black waters of an ocean. It comes as no surprise that she left those facilities looking superb, and whether windsurfing or scuba diving, the choice is yours.